Hey y'all, it's Kim again. So this time we're gonna go back to some of the letters, but just remember you should try to get this book, Legacy of Ashes. It says The History of the CIA by Tim Weiner. That's right, Weiner. Um, this is Chaos by Tom O'Neill. It says Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. That was a good read. That was suggested by Candace Owens. And then Case Closed. I started reading this. Mostly it was where I ended, I think, was basically his upbringing and childhood. And then there are a couple of books that I can suggest off of Amazon. The Devil's Chessboard. I mean, obviously, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you could just get it for free, and just read through it. This says Dulles undermined or betrayed every president he served in high office. And then let's see. This says The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dulles, the CIA, and the Rise of America's Secret Government, like the deep state, bureaucrats, not elected, don't want to leave their office. Anyway, and then The Man Who Killed Kennedy, the case against LBJ. I haven't started reading this, but I heard about it yesterday by Roger Stone. I've already got it on my Kindle. Going to start reading as soon as I can because I got so many other books too. But anyway, let's go back to this. So we ended with the Sergei Zernono. Anyway, he wrote a letter, I guess, just basically saying that he had information on Lee Harvey Oswald. And, he went to the FBI and then they were mistreating him and he wrote letters and back and forth and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it says, Dear Mr. Price, this is a retyped letter. I visited Mr. Ferry, Deputy District Attorney, on August 16th, 1977. I told in the office the FBI agents and Secret Service used police department to harass me. Police department do supply pencil of anesthesia gas to the manager of the building I live. The manager do or use certain people to freeze me by anesthesia gas, then push drugs, poison in my mouth to torture me, to take my sleep away, or bleed by rectal. And they use many other chemicals to brainwash me to use me in political assassination, which I refuse. On January 20th, 1976, in Sacramento on 8th and I Streets. Man came to me from police or post office, U.S. Department of Justice, and freeze me by gas and told me to take gun, pistol, and we will tell you where to go to shoot to kill Mr. Sergeant Shriver. I refused. Manager Mr. Seisel of Marshall Hotel called on the man to tell me this on the street. In February 1976, police intelligence told me the assassination will not happen here. How about to move to Maryland State? In this letter, I ask you to get report from Dr. Frederick S. Baker, MD, colon and rectal surgery, on January 31st, 1978. His phone, 452-4095. I do bleed today very much, and I am weak. In this letter, I ask you to give restraint order or respond to me what could be done. Excuse me. The right wing in America made record to use me in assassination. I refuse. I am a human, and I like to be treated as human. That makes my heart hurt. Police put frame up on me just to take advantages on me. Police use lie, police use mental case to take advantages on me and tell me that right wing do use such people like me. To prove I enclose copy hold on. To prove, I enclose copy midnight, June 14th, 1976. Also, I include copy letter I sent to Mr. Ted Sheedy, supervisor, on January 26th, 1978, and copy of his reply to me. That's horrible. Mr. Shriver, Sergeant Shriver, was run for president in 1976. Legal Center for the Disabled. Sergei Zernono. Dear Mr. Zernono, this is to acknowledge receipt of your letter regarding difficulties you have encountered with the police and the FBI. In the event that there is legal action taken by the police or the FBI to institutionalize you, this office will provide you with legal representation. If you have any further legal problems, please contact this office. And that's, I guess, just like that delivery address or something. Dang. Leslie K., paralegal. Catherine Hughes, staff. That's horrible. I'm just going to say that is awful, whatever they were doing to this guy, because he refused to do that. Let's see. What's the next one? This is the Warren Commission report article on the investigation conducted by District Attorney Garrison. It says, we are forwarding herewith. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, you couldn't read this anyway. It says, we are forwarding herewith a reprint of the article, A Reporter at Large Garrison, published in the New Yorker, 13th of July, 1968. It was written by Edward J. Epstein himself, author of a book, Inquest, critical of the Warren Commission report. The widespread campaign of adverse criticism of the U.S., most recently, again provoked by the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy, appears to have revived foreign interest in the assassination of his brother, the late President Kennedy, too. The forthcoming trial of Sirhan, accused of the murder of Senator Kennedy, can be expected to cause a new wave of criticism and suspicion against the United States, claiming once more the existence of a sinister political murder conspiracy. We are sending you the attached article based either on first-hand observation by the author or on other identified sources, since it deals with the continuing investigation conducted by District Attorney Garrison of New Orleans, Louisiana. That investigation tends to keep alive speculation about the death of President Kennedy, an alleged conspiracy, and about the possible involvement of federal agencies, notably the FBI and CIA. The article is not meant for reprinting in any media. Hold on, let's reread that. The article is not meant for reprinting in any media. It is forwarded primarily for your information and for the information of all station personnel concerned. If the Garrison investigation should be cited in your area in the context of renewed anti-U.S. attacks, you may use the article to brief interested contacts, especially government and other political leaders, and to demonstrate to assets which you may assign to counter such attacks that there is no hard evidence of any such conspiracy. Let me reread that part again. It says, if the Garrison investigation should be cited in your area in the context of renewed anti-U.S. attacks, you may use the article to brief interested contacts, especially government and other political leaders, and to demonstrate to assets which you may assign to counter such attacks that there is no hard evidence of any such conspiracy. In this context, assets may have to explain to their audiences certain basic facts about the U.S. judicial system, its separation of state and federal courts, and the fact that judges and district attorneys in the states are usually elected, not appointed. Consequently, DA Garrison can continue in office as long as his constituents reelect him. Even if your assets have to discuss this in order to refute or at least weaken anti-U.S. propaganda of sufficiently serious impact, any personal attacks upon Garrison or any other public personality in the United States must be strictly avoided. Brian K. Slots? I don't know. Does it even have it? Oh, okay. So this is field distribution. So whatever those codes and stuff mean, I'm not sure. But that is weird that if there's renewed anti-US attacks, they can hire people to counter the attacks. That's what kind of struck me as odd. What in the world? Okay, let's look at the next one. So this has three. It says routing, Chief Far East Division. I guess these are all the people that took the paperwork. Please assign X882, blah, blah, blah. I can't read that. Oh, something about the Warren Commission, CIA and ASIO, release of information by Warren Commission. Let's see if there's anything in here. It says Director of Central Intelligence, Deputy Director for Plans, maybe. Letter for Director from, is it Charles Spry? Attached is a sealed letter from Sir Charles Spry, maybe. Director General of the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, who provided a copy of the letter to the Chief of Station, Melbourne, and suggests a reply for your signature. Sir Charles's letter to you recommends against declassification of the Warren Commission documents CD 971, which was referred to our investigation of anonymous telephone calls to the Canberra Embassy before and after the assassination of President Kennedy. I consider the points made by Sir Charles in his letter to be valid and accordingly recommend against the declassification of CD 971 in the foreseeable future. CI staff concurs with the recommendation. So they're trying to cover up something. Letter or replying to Sir Charles, whatever these codes are, declassification of the Warren Commission. Interesting. And then let's see, what's this other one? Anything interesting in this? Okay, here's the letter. It says, Sir Charles C.F. Spry, Director General, Australian Security Intelligence Organization. This was from November 26th in 1968. GFBO, whatever box, and then blah, blah, blah. Dear Charles, thank you for your letter of 15th of October recommending against the declassification of Warren Commission document CD 971. I might mention that our inquiry to you in August of 1968 was in anticipation of further pressure for the release of the Warren Commission papers, a pressure which has not materialized. Accordingly, there is not at the present time any intention to release CD 971. Okay, I did read that earlier. Oh, this is from Richard Helms. He was also mentioned in The Legacy of Ashes, and I think in The Devil's Chessboard. So let's see. Should the question be raised at some future time, the points made by you in your letter provide every reason to keep the document out of the public domain. And then whatever these codes are, I mean, that's whatever here. Okay, let's go down to this one. See if there's anything interesting here. Okay, what's this? All right, something secret. So maybe, let's see here. Immediate director. What is all this? Release of classified documents. See if there's anything special on this one. It's just a bunch of codes. I don't know what those mean though. It says action required. See paragraph 2. The fax station received appears to be incomplete. It came to cover sheet, a one-page Copenhagen cable stating no traces in the first page of a director cable requesting traces on Lee Harvey Oswald. Unless the missing portions of the director cable have some bearing on Denmark station, cannot make a case against release of the materials. We would insist, however, that crypts be deleted, as reference indicated would be the case. Please keep us apprised of date these documents will be released to the station and may inform ambassador and our liaison service chiefs. Do not destroy cross-file copy for 201 blah blah blah. The end of message. So I guess it's some type of internal cable thing. I mean, I said something about a fax. I mean, of course, this was in the 60s, so who knows? What is all this? Edward, or Edward, maybe? Seeger? See if there's anything in here. Oh, to Moscow Info Director. W in Intel? What is that? Slugs. KGB official Nikonov. Action required none during the week of 3 through the 9th November 1991. U.S. Professor E.B. Smith had several discussions in Moscow with Slava, I guess, Nikonov, who is a longtime friend and now deputy to KGB Director Bakhtin. The professor has known Nikonov well since 1976. He currently is instructing on a Fulbright grant at St. Petersburg State University until 22nd of December 1991. See paragraph 7 for bio on the professor. DCOB Stephen R. Heiberg has befriended the professor, who was dinner guest at Heiberg's home on 10th of November, and provided the following info on Nikonov and his new KGB job. Nikonov is the grandson of former Soviet foreign minister, Vyacheslav Molotov. Oh, is that the dude, the Molotov cocktail? I don't know if that's right. But anyway, the U.S. professor taught Nikonov in 1976 at Moscow State University while a Fulbright professor. Nikonov was regarded as extremely intelligent and capable. It gave the impression that he was an ideological hardliner. The professor believed that he was likely to be a rising star in the Soviet system and recommended him for an IREX-sponsored visit to the U.S. As expected, Nikonov's views and rhetoric moderated very visibly after his first direct exposure to the U.S. He has had at least one additional IREX-sponsored trip to the U.S. and has spent periods of time as a personal guest at the home of U.S. professor in Maryland. Nikonov came to work in his position at the KGB as a result of being a close friend of Bakhtin. During the August 1991 coup attempt, Nikonov said that he refused to follow his boss's orders to act in accordance with the declared state of emergency. He was dismissed by his boss, NFI, from this position and called Bakhtin to seek advice. Bakhtin said he was also opposing the coup and would look out for Nikonov once order was arrested. Soon after the coup, Bakhtin called him to ask that he assist with restructuring the KGB. After it was agreed that Nakanoff could decline to accept two-star military KGB rank and work in the job for an equivalent civilian compensation package, he came to the KGB as Bakutin's deputy. Nakanoff said his friends were delighted that he had declined the KGB commission. Nakanoff's first assignment from Bakutin was making arrangements for the KGB CIA liaison relationship, which has now come into being in preparation for one possible question which might be raised. Nakanoff personally reviewed KGB files to determine if Lee Harvey Oswald had been a KGB agent. He reviewed 5 thick volumes of files on Oswald. Nakanoff is now confident that Oswald was at no time an agent controlled by the KGB. From the description of Oswald in the files, he doubted that anyone could control Oswald, but noted that the KGB watched him closely and constantly while he was in the USSR. He commented that Oswald had a stormy relationship with the Soviet wife, who wrote him incessantly. The file also reflected that Oswald was a poor shot when he tried target firing in the USSR. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But he was a poor shot when he tried target firing in the USSR. And you got to think about it from this perspective, from a different perspective. You're trying to hit a moving target in a vehicle, even though they're going slow enough. You have to adjust for the wind and everything else. And I don't know how far like some of these rifles shoot, but that's kind of weird that they said that he was a poor shot when he tried target firing in USSR. So I'm still not fully convinced of everything. I'm just going through these documents, but that is kind of strange. In preparation for establishment of a liaison relationship with the Swedish intelligence service, Nakanoff personally performed an inquiry for Bakutin into the fate of Swedish diplomat Wallenberg. There is still pressure from the Swedish side to have a definitive answer on this matter because of the continuing importance of the Wallenberg family. Nakanoff was amazed to find out that the KGB had not been able to previously establish whether Wallenberg had died and under what circumstances. He was unable to find partial evidence from 14 different sources, NFI, I guess. I don't know what that means. Nakanoff now believes, but found no conclusive proof, that Wallenberg was executed late in 1947. There were indications that Wallenberg was suspected of having contacts with others who were accused of providing false diplomatic identity documents to others beyond Jews saved from the Holocaust. Among these were Nazi war criminals who were allowed to escape. There was no proof of Wallenberg's guilt in any of these charges. Fulbright professor, who is Nakanoff's former professor and friend, is E.B. Smith, date of birth sometime around 1920, USA, professor of history at University of Maryland, retired, resides near Annapolis, Maryland. Other Fulbright professor for winter 1991 term in St. Petersburg State University, USSR, 2 previous Fulbright assignments in Moscow and several in PRC, People's Republic of China and Germany. He hosts former students from USSR and People's Republic of China on U.S. visits. There are no base traces on Smith. He served in the military and is very well disposed towards the U.S. government. He volunteered info on Nakanoff and other USSR, PRC, and German contacts to Heiberg and can provide considerable bio and assessment info on them. Interesting. So Lee Harvey Oswald was a terrible shot. That's what I got out of that. Let's see what this has in it. let's see. Wallace, whatever this is. Cuba tidbits from late November. So these must be like little, what do they call them? Cables, I guess. Something like that that were sent. Okay, so action requested none, FYI. So for your information. SWRACK transcripts of 26th, 27th November 93 contain conversations between American Department official Romero Abreu Quintana and Honduran National Party comptroller Teofilo Martel. During this conversation, Abreu stated that Cuban President Fidel Castro Rus was unhappy. Rus was unhappy with the prospect of Cuban elections that are to be held in Havana, in December of 1993. The Honduran official said that although elections were already held in 1993, they were going to be repeated, and there is a possibility that Castro will lose. In mid-May 1993, National Party Congress President Rodolfo Arias Navas, Miguel Facusi, and Martel traveled, to Cuba on an unofficial visit. At that time, the three men were wined and dined by Fidel Castro. It is apparent from Abreu's conversations with Martel that he is a trusted friend of the Cubans. On 27th of November, Cuban official Ruben Suarez spoke with another Cuban official posted in Managua, Maria Lopez, about the Kennedy assassination. Lopez claimed that Brigadier General Fabian Escalante, font of the Ministry of Interior, was handling the matter, and that he had information that could positively identify the Kennedy assassins. Assassins, plural. Interesting. Assassins, plural. Okay. So this is number 20 on here. Okay. Right into whatever individual claiming former association with N.W. Bolton. So this is in 1996. It says action required. If you want us to fax the below messages to headquarters, please advise. It says the following fax was sent to the Denver NV tag office, whatever that is, and they, deputy of the FCI squad, in turn sent it over to us on 2nd February 1996 for our background. NVTAG plans to follow up unless there is some interest by N.W. Bolton. NVTAG Denver received an unsolicited 2-page fax from a Robert Plumley, aka William H. Pearson. The first page was an informal note to NVTAG, and the second page was an actual letter. The text of both pages is provided below. It should be noted that the writer refers to a time period of 1980 and also contact with a Paul Lee of the N.W. Bolton Denver Contact Division. This is probably former Denver COS Paul Leadham. We find no record of Plumley or Pearson in our current card files. This is text of page 1 to director NVTAG and Denver NVTAG, whatever those are. I think you people should know what is coming down the pike in case there is a bad play from some people I know in reference to matters I have discussed with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in the House. Closed door testimony in 1990 and 1992. I do not want to establish any form of contact with the NVTAG other than this fax. However, I felt I should make some form of contact before the fact, just in case something goes sour in the next few months. I still like to consider myself as a friend of the NB tag, but sometimes you people make it extremely difficult. The enclosed facts is just intel matter that someday may play an important role in one of your investigations. Text of page 2 to Robert Vernon from, I guess, William R. Plumley, aka William H. Pearson, January 28th, 1996. Dear Bob, in November 1980, I sabotaged the Denver Magazine article Fear and Loathing on the Assassination Trail because the documents and information I was giving to the magazine to verify certain events I alleged was being given to the Denver NVTAG. Boxes of government documents, pictures, names, and dates were turned over to Denver Magazine. Doris Keller, editor, Peter Boyles, writer, Doe Vaughn, researcher. From these documents, Doe Vaughn and others used the documents in my statements to verify the fact sheet that is contained within the article. The envy tag came to my place before the article was published and talked to me about incriminating statements I had made to Denver Magazine. Shortly after that, I changed names and dates in the article in an attempt to discredit the article and myself. I did not want to be part of any government probe into my past activities in behalf of the N.W. Bolton and the Cuba desk and my Cuban friends. I never saw the article before it was published, never wanted to, especially after the meeting with the NB tag. And Paul Lee of the N.W. Bolton Denver Contact Division, I said to hell with them and all associated with the Kennedy N.W. Bolton mess. Shortly after that, my house in Grant, Colorado was firebombed and I was attacked and beat up outside a restaurant in Evergreen, Colorado. Witnesses and police reports on file as the event took place in August of 81. I made peace with my enemies and went back to work as a pilot until the Contra thing blew up, and I testified 3 times in the Senate and the Congress. The Kennedy matter is contained within that testimony, as well as the Boyle article. That testimony is classified top secret. Committee sensitive today. Someday it will be declassified, and then I'll talk some more. I hope this helps you in your pending project. However, I can't see how I can be of any help to you. I am not a creditable source by my own doing. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it was set up. Joe and I talked at length about this in California after a meeting with Oliver Stone, even talked to Stone and his people about it. So Oliver Stone's the guy that wrote the movie JFK. It says, hang in there, and I wish all of you the best as you try to untangle the maze and minefields that are still out there. Sincerely, signature. Yeah, anyway. Cuban desk, blah, blah, blah. This was just whatever. Mentions prior contact with N.W. Bolton. Anyway, so there's the first 20. I mean, you could keep going and going and going. I mean, it's like I said, some of them are like a little bit of duplication, and some of them are just like really small, but it's just enough to like keep you going. Let's see, what is this one? Slingshots and larceny. So we'll do this, maybe this last one, and then I'll keep making these videos and we'll see if we can get through some of this stuff. It says action requested. Please pass to NOC Sidney B. Calicrates prior to his TDY departure to Montevideo. What is that? Summary: this cable contains assessment data from FG Fork 86 F86 on basically larceny based on F-86 observations of and discussion with L1 and family during their RAF outing to Chewy in early January 1994. L1 did the driving from Montevideo to Chewy. He does not like driving at night or in the rain. In contrast with his normally pleasant personality, L1 becomes aggressive and nervous behind the wheel. While families were staying together in a rather small beach house, L1 and his wife got into a fight. She appeared to be the instigator. F-86 wife later talked to L1's wife in private. L1's wife said she blames L1 because when L1 divorced his previous wife, he gave her his apartment. Thus, L1 and his current wife will not have their own place to live when they eventually return to Cuba. That is why during their previous trip to Cuba from Uruguay, L1 and wife built an extra room onto house of Mrs. L1's parents in Guanabo. Mrs. L1 also said that L1 is muy consumista, excuse me, consumista. What does that mean? Oh, a compulsive shopper. Oh, like a consumer. I got it. Okay, that makes sense now. A compulsive shopper. And that she has to control him when they go to the supermarket because L1 always buys too much. Mrs. L1 explained that L1 grew up in a very poor family. That is why he now buys too much of everything. She also criticized L1 for spoiling their children, his older daughter by previous marriage, and their younger daughter by giving them whatever they asked for. Mrs. L1 has a poor relationship with the older daughter. She added that L1's relationship with his two grown sons is good but somewhat distant. F-86 personally observed L1's compulsive shopping when they all went to Chewy on 8th of January. Both L1 and his wife brought large number of items to send to their family in Cuba. At one point, L1 told his wife that he would do the buying and she should be the housewife. Mrs. L1 called him a dumb Spaniard. Sorry. A Gallego Bruto. F-86 suspects that L1 and wife have other problems, possibly due to L1's infidelity during their spats. Mrs. L1 was usually the aggressor, with L1 trying to keep peace or simply remaining quiet. Mrs. L1 also got into arguments with some of the Palestinian merchants in Chewy. One other aspect of L1's family, which F-86 found disagreeable, was behavior of L1's older daughter. F-86 and his wife were both offended by daughter's frequent sexual references in front of F-86's younger children. F-86 said L1's daughter acted just like a Cuban hooker. Oh my gosh, what the heck? On a more elevated plane, F-86 also had some private philosophical and political discussions with L1. In response to F-86's direct question, L1 said that the writers, oh no, who have influenced him the most are Marx, Hegel, and Kant. I think that's how you say his name. So Marx, Hegel, and Kant. L1 said that Lenin's main achievement was to recognize need for only one party. L1 considers Lenin to have been an interpreter of Marx, but not a great theoretician. That's so hard to say. Theoretician. To some extent, L1 defended Lenin's so-called law of economic prudence, a means of economic planning which Lenin unsuccessfully attempted to implement in USSR. After Lenin's death, it became excessively bureaucratized and atrophied, although the system did work with some success in Bulgaria. L1 also acknowledged need for neoliberal medicine to reform Cuban economy because there is no other solution. L1 added, however, that reform should be instituted with minimum social and political costs. While state should not be excessively interventionist in economy, L1 wants state to retain its protective social role because market economy also has its faults. L1 talked about assassination of President John F. Kennedy. According to L1 in 1969, L1 personally saw Fidel Castro receive a group of U.S. radicals. Castro talked to them for 2 hours about why just one assassin could not possibly have killed Kennedy. Castro ordered a reenactment of the crime using his best marksmen, and they could not duplicate what Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly did by himself. L1 said that 3 groups were involved in killing the president: one group of Cubans, one group of mafiosos, and a third group of mercenaries. The third group included a man with the Greek name. L1 told F86 that it is not known whether any of these groups ever had any connection with P in infinite, whatever, PN infinite. In this regard, F86 reported to station that L1 is always careful not to attack PN infinite when F86 is present. Station reporting additional information from P or F86 separately. Wow. So, wow. What in the world? All right, so we're going to stop there for today because that is a lot. I think that's a good place to stop. I'm just writing down what I have. Oh my goodness, this is nuts. So we're on page what, 3? Page 3. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of interesting. It's kind of sick too. But anyway, let me get this out of here. Oh yeah, stop sharing. So yeah, I mean that's kind of crazy. Um, wow, that's a lot. I mean, I can see how it could be 80 something page or 80,000 pages because it's like there's so many different groups to be involved. It's what it looks like. Agencies, KGB, the CIA, FBI, the Cubans. I mean, all these different groups. But anyway, yeah. What do y'all think? It's a lot of information, but it's kind of interesting just going through it. But yeah, um, I'll try to keep this going. We'll see if we can get to the end of it. It may take a while, but anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Have a good afternoon. I'll try to get in here tomorrow. I got to have some people come out to check a few things at the house, and hopefully I can get on and get some recording done. But anyway, y'all have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.